Have you been in town and you probably have a toe trouser, or maybe you have a sort of a broken shoe somewhere? And then when you're walking the streets, you feel like everyone is noticing you what you're doing. And then whenever time you're turning around, you feel like, "Ah, this guy has actually noticed that I didn't brush my teeth like yesterday." It's like, okay, these guys can actually realize that I did reuse this shirt. It's like the one that I had yesterday. You get the point. Have you ever been in town and that is behaving? And then you feel like, oh my goodness, everybody knows what is happening. That is called a spotlight effect. Let me just write the name so that you understand. There's something called spotlight effect. You feel like there is a certain torch somewhere or spotlight that is actually flashing the light on top of you so that at least everyone is actually noticing you. And guess what? Today's video, I'm going to talk about stop acting rich. Fanya hivi instead. What do I mean? Like, stop behaving as if you have money and you're suffering. You do not have it. And guess what? This is what majority of the people are doing right now as we speak, and they are getting themselves into lots of debts, lots of problems, and lots of regrets in their lives. Okay, so what exactly do I mean by stop acting rich? Remember one thing, the life of the finance is not a game. You see, when I talk about acting, this is faking. All right, this is faking, and when you fake, it's meaning it is not real. It is not real. Okay, so now what does it mean at this particular point? When you act rich, therefore it means there are some things that you have to assume. There's some things that you have to assume. When I say assume, I simply mean there are some things that you have to incorporate in your life. Okay, incorporate in your life so that at least you may appear as if you're rich. And remember one thing, there's something I will let you know. There is something called fit in. Okay, to fit in is to appear as, to appear as simply means that you want to look as if you are like your fellas. And this is what is affecting majority of the guys whom we call them what? Yeah, I guess you guessed it right. It's called the middle incomers. Middle incomers. So these middle incomers are the guys who usually tend to actually finance in their lifestyle to prove to you that they're having it easy, everything is good by themselves. And they're really causing a lot of chaos and crisis amongst the young guys who cannot be able to differentiate between acting and being real. Okay, now this is my point. When I say you fit in, that is to appear as. And what are the areas you usually try to fit in? Number one, these are the basic things. You find when it comes to rent, you're paying all that what you cannot do what? You can afford, yes, but at what cost? Let's say, for example, you're earning a salary of, let's say, an average Kenyan usually earns a salary of what? Let's say 45,000, okay? 45,000. All the due respect to those guys who are earning 15,000 when I say average, okay? So let's say you earn 45,000. So this guy, just because he wants to prove to his or her peers that he's actually or she's having quite a good life, so what they do is that they go rent a house. For example, if you go by the rules, you're not supposed to pay more than 12% or rather 30% of your 50% or half of this towards your rent. What does it mean? It means that the rent that you're supposed to pay earning this amount of money should not exceed, if you ask me, should not exceed something like 9,000. Now, there you are, you're paying a rent maybe worth 17,000 out of this. Let's say you're paying 17,000 at the end of the month out of this, okay? There's some people who even go ahead and pay even 20,000 out of this. So the guy is remaining with 25,000 to survive. Now, at that particular point, this individual, he goes out each and every week to grab those cappuccinos, matcha latte, and what have you, maybe 2 times a week. And one single cappuccino goes for around 260. If you grab 2 in a week, 500 is gone. If you do so by 4 times, then 2,000 is gone. That's a lifestyle. Again, you find maybe this guy has a family, and maybe you have a kid, and this kid, you've got to take them to school. And remember one thing, what we say, I have to give my kids the best education that I've never gotten. There is no problem with that. I support it and I love it. But the point is this, are you doing it at the right time? So you find this individual is actually paying a school fees, for his kid or her kid, that is quite an outrageous. Why? The whole essence sometimes not even the kid getting the quality education, but is when they actually flocking with their fellows or peers, they tend to feel like as if everything is good. Now, at that particular point, you realize that you're actually paying a price of fitting in. You're paying the price of doing what? Of faking or not being real. You're assuming a character that is not even allowing you to do so. And that's why whenever you actually realize that you're punching above your weight, it means that you're really struggling. For example, let's say you make 45,000 at the end of the month, and you survive on 45,000 at the end of the month. What does it mean? So in your typical month, you ought to have 45,000 for you to run smoothly. And these guys, the issues of saving and investments is not in their diary. They don't think about that because they got nothing to save. If you're making 45,000, and you are actually utilizing the entire 45,000, meaning when it comes to what we call cash flow, on your case with regard to savings, you have zero cash flow. Okay, so when you have zero cash flow, at a particular point, therefore you cannot invest. Now tell me the repercussion of this. The repercussion of this, you're gonna do what? You're gonna survive on what we call the paycheck to paycheck. Okay, it means that you're gonna get yourself in something that we call a rat race. Now, what is a rat race? A rat race is this situation whereby you're not even surviving, you're actually struggling. You see, you have to get a salary at the end of the month for you to survive. Have you ever seen some guys who usually survive in a situation whereby if they dare miss a salary for just a single month, then everything is squandered or ruined in that specific month. It means that you are not incorporating that what we call, I usually call it 4-1 theory. See, that's my theory actually. Hey, if anyone who asks, you just tell them Joseph said. It's called a 4-1. It's called a 4-1 theory. What is a 4-1 theory? A 4-1 theory is whereby you catch up with a whole month salary or investments or savings after a period of 4 months. What do I mean? Like, let's say this is 1 month, 2, 3. Let's say this is 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 4 months. Here you earn 45,000 each, 45K each. So what I mean is this: be able to save a particular amount of money here. Let's say you can save at least like 11,000, or let's say 12,000. 12,000, 12,000, 12,000. So by the time you're clocking the fourth month here, you already have a savings of 1 month. So you have a saving of another 45,000 in this particular case. So with regard of 4 months that you've actually been working, 3 months are what? Are sort of what, quote unquote, wasted. But at least you have salvaged 1 month. What does it mean? So if you apply this formula in a whole year, it simply means that if you were to take 12 divided by 4, therefore it means 3 times what you've been earning, which is 45,000. So that should be at least 135,000 at the end of the year. Okay, so it means at the end of the year, you go ahead and do what? Salvage 3 months. Remember, an year is made up of 12 months divided by 4. Therefore it means you're actually going ahead salvaging 3 months of your life in that particular year. You know what do I mean by that particular point? Is that in that period of 12 months, you've actually salvaged 3 months. 9 months are gone, have been misused. They have been, let me just say, use the term misused, because you've eaten, you've paid your bills and all those kind of things. So at that particular point, it means that at least 3 months of viewers have actually been saved. So when you have a savings of this amount of money, then we say you are heading on the right direction. So in this regard of you acting and faking everything, therefore you get yourself in a situation whereby you have to excuse me, you have to make sure that you're earning each and every month for you to survive. And if you do not do so, then guess what happens? You end up into lending or getting yourself loans or debts. Let me just call them debts. And the problem here is this: there's no problem with you getting debts, but the type of debt that you're getting is to fund what we call the consumables. What are the consumables? These are the things that you buy that they do not generate any income. You get a loan to pay school fees. That's a consumable. By the way, if you ask me, it's a wrong formula. To get debt to pay your rent, you get debt to, sort of buy food and what have you. So all those things are called the consumables. So the point is this: when you stop acting rich, guess what happens? You actually realize that you can actually go ahead and live below your means. Live below what you see. What exactly do I mean when I say live below your means? I always mean like you are living in a lifestyle that it is below what you can afford. Okay, when you live below that what you can afford, there is always a money that is actually left behind. So for example, if you stop faking, if you stop all these things that can actually go ahead and be able to ruin your things, so guess what happens? You are able to salvage some money, and therefore that simply means that you can be able to do what? You can be able to go ahead and make some cash at the end of the day. So what I mean is this: so if you live by your life, live by what you can actually afford below your means, therefore it means you ain't gonna pay this what we call the fit in price. See, there is this thing called the fit-in price, okay? So this fit-in price is when you are worried, you say, hey, I don't want to lose my hood, I don't want to lose my friends, I just want to be with them and all those kind of things. So this is where I always tell people, be very careful and cautious. Otherwise, if you keep on playing this fit-in kind of a lifestyle, therefore you're going to pay this a continuous amount of money in terms of you fitting in, and this is going to get you into problem. Then what exactly are you supposed to do? Do not live to impress anybody. Remember this, people always talk of you actually using your hard-earned money to buy the things that you do not want to impress the people that you do not love. I'll repeat my point. Can you imagine this? Using your hard-earned money to buy the things that you don't really need them, okay? And you're doing so to impress the people that you do not even want. Let's take a case scenario. Let's say you live somewhere in a plot, and that's what we call it, or rental, or however, or flat or something, and then you end up buying something. Let's say you buy a carpet worth like a lot of money, and this carpet, just you're doing so because maybe you went to your friend's place and you realize they have the same carpet, so you buy the same carpet, not on the basis that you really needed that carpet, okay? So you did so because you went to that place and you got impressed by that carpet. So therefore you are like, hey, whenever they shows up to my place, I'm gonna prove, or the carpet, the existence of the carpet on the floor actually proves to them that I'm also doing well in life. So let me tell you one secret, and these guys usually have that crisis. The crisis of acting rich and all those kind of things usually happens when someone's hit an age of 18 all the way, I realize this, all the way to 45 years. All the way to 45 years. Whenever somebody is actually transiting in this life, this is where people try the best they can to prove to their peers that they're actually doing good in life. And guess what happens? Beyond this age, or let me say this, at this particular age bracket, this is what we call the productivity age. This is a productivity age. Okay, this productivity age is when you ought to live below your means, so that at least you can salvage a lot, invest a lot, get yourself assets that are generating income. So by the time you're heading over to your retirement is usually kicks in at around 60. It's not a must that you have to follow this rule of you have to retire at 60. No, retire when you decide, because this is your life, okay? But if you follow the system tells you you're supposed to retire at 60, because it's assumed that at 60 and below or above, you are not even productive, okay? You cannot run, you cannot do a lot of things at this particular age, okay? So they ought to go for the young guys, and then they replace you. So what does it mean? At this particular age bracket of 18 to 45 is considered as your productivity age. But instead of channeling the outcomes of your energy towards investment, you did channel it acting rich and what have you, acquiring the things that you don't really need to impress the people that you do not love. Then you're going to get yourself into problems, okay? And therefore, as you transist becomes older, above, let's say above 45 years, you tend to view life in a different way. You realize, oh my goodness, nobody's actually watching. People are too busy. People are actually considering their things. They're actually too busy out there. It's like the example that I gave when I was starting this video, the spotlight effect. You realize in town, everyone is so busy. By the way, would you believe if I tell you that even if you walk barefoot in town, people are hardly to notice you compared to when you are doing so in Ushago or in upcountry, where we have limited number of guys. They are actually likely to notice that you're actually walking barefoot compared to you doing so in town. It is true. Somebody can actually walk in the streets of any given city with a torn pants, and guys won't even notice that, because people are so busy occupied by their things, and therefore the other people are also thinking the same. If they have anything like in a shortcoming from them, they feel like everybody is actually watching them. So the point is this: almost everyone has this spotlight effect. So, and if you let it affect you, you're gonna be getting things that you don't really need them. That's for a fact, okay? So don't live in a life of impressing anybody. So by the time you clock above 45, then you tend to realize nobody is actually watching. It's all by myself. And I know you're like, okay, just have you ever been hit 45 so that you can tell us that's what happens? See, they always say reading a book is actually acquiring a 60-year-old experience when you're 30. That's a reality. And you can actually use what we call the existing examples to actually do not get yourself out there. Okay, so you see, I've interacted with guys at this particular age, and if there are guys who they don't really have to try the best they can to prove a point, they're the guys who are aging at this particular age. These are the guys, whenever they decide they're gonna do something, they just do it, inconsiderate of whatever you guys you're gonna think about it. You see, for example, say I have the capacity to buy a car. I really don't have to buy a car just because you think I have the capacity to buy a car, therefore I should buy a car because that was you expecting me to do so. But I buy a car because I feel and I think it is very necessary for me to have have a car at this particular point. See, when you start arguing that way, you're gonna solve a lot of problems in your life. And guess what? You're gonna be shocked the amount of money that you can actually salvage. And that money, you can actually channel it towards savings and investments. That's for a fact. That's the thing that you're supposed to understand as far as this life is concerned. Okay, now, what is my parting shot on this video? This is what you're supposed to do. And if you have the grace of actually having this information of above 45 years old when you're young, amazing thing. I'm not saying that anybody by default, if you are 18 to 45 bracket, then by default you're faking. And no. There's some wonderful guys at this particular age bracket. They are really trying the best that they can to make sure that at least by the time they are clocking this age, then everything will be good and in place. And that's why I said at all the time, it requires discipline, sacrifice, and consistency. If you do not have those combinations, then it's gonna be very, very tough and hard for you as you're moving along the way. So, my guys, this is what I'm gonna leave you with. Stop acting rich. And I know this information is really affecting a lot of young guys. So a lot of young guys are actually comparing what is happening outside there. They compare their lives and others. They feel like they're missing out. And the moment you start acting rich, you are prone or you become gullible to some of the manipulations that are out there. You're likely to be sold things that they promise you getting quick rich and all those kind of things. And by the time you realize, because you are chasing, you see, when a lot of people act rich, then if you're not smart to know that these guys are actually striving or trying. Have you ever seen somebody straining to prove to you that they have something? Really straining. And then you're like, do you really have that thing if you're really straining? Because when you have a thing, okay, when, for example, I say somebody like, let me just use an international guy. I don't want to use a Kenyan example. Let's say you have somebody like Elon Musk. You see, he doesn't try, he doesn't strive to prove that to you that he has money or he's wealthy or something of sort. It just flows on itself. But these guys, straining, doing the best they can to prove to you that they have money. I ain't gonna decide or dictate what somebody should do with their money. But the point is this: I'm talking to the guys whose the message is being channeled to. Try the much as you can to decide or notice and understand who is faking it, who is doing it for real, and where you can actually borrow the example of the real thing that you can incorporate in your life and be able to do something as far as your life is concerned. Guess what? That marks the end of my video, but not the end of me posting a video each and every time. Perhaps this is your first time watching this face or seeing me. I am Joseph. I talk about money, investment, and anything related to exactly that. I got lots of videos that you can check about, okay? And I do so, I upload a video each and every time. So if you don't want to miss any of my good videos, do this. Hey, it doesn't cost you nothing, okay? Just like this video and also comment down below. And by the way, there is a small button written subscribe down there. Hit that magical button, turn that notification bell. And I know you're like, what's the importance? The importance that you get to be notified whenever I upload a new good video. So for now, it's a goodbye. And by the way, if you'd like to have a conversation with me at a personal level, I offer those services. Pick my number from the description of this specific video. My email is also there. Shoot me a call. I give those services pertaining to investment, businesses, and what have you. Obviously, at a cup of coffee's price. For now, it's a goodbye and see you in the next one.